Good afternoon and welcome to this Experian webinar. My name is James Murray. I'm the Digital Insight Manager for Experian Marketing Services, and today we're going to be talking about the growing importance of search in a multi-channel world. So I just wanted to highlight this is the first of three webinars that we're running over the course of this month. This one is primarily focused on search. The second one, which is coming up next week on the 18th of May, is all around email. And the third one, which will be on the 23rd of May, is all around social. And of course, Experian, we are effectively a big data company. We have a lot of expertise in these various digital focus areas. And so what we're really trying to do is to show how we can bring all of these various data points together to give you something which is sort of larger than the whole. So if you want to understand more about search, about email, and about social, please log on to the Hitwise UK main homepage, and then if you look for the new webinars button, which I put at the bottom of the slide there, you can sign up for the other two a bit later. But on with today, and so as I said, Experian, we are a big data company, but we're all about turning data into insight. Having lots and lots of data is actually rather sort of fruitless if you can't get any actual insight out of that. And so we're all about taking those large sort of pools of data and being able to deliver something which is going to be actually insightful and to help you understand who your customers are. And so today is really about showing the growing importance of search, how search is becoming a bigger part of multi-channel marketing, and if nothing else, I hope that today's session is going to give you a few sort of insights into how search can show you something that perhaps you wouldn't expect or that you wouldn't know. So I've mentioned that Experian has a lot of data. I think it's always worth it at this stage just to sort of highlight just how big our sort of data set is. We know 500 things about 49 million people in the UK across 24 million households. And if you just think to sort of some of the relationships that you have perhaps with your partner or with your best friend, you know, I can tell you 500 things about my best friends. And yet at Experian, we know 500 things about 49 million people. That's a lot of data that we hold, and it's a lot of data that we can use to benchmark people against, from how much their household income is, to where they live in the country, to what are their sort of their personal interests and what are their online habits. And we take that data from lots of different sort of data sources, so we can combine sort of social data on Facebook and Twitter, for example, with mobile data, with what people are looking at on their phones and on their tablets, where they're going online, but also the sort of the offline data as well. So what media things are they consuming, what newspapers they read, what TV programs do they watch. So it gives you lots of different touch points across who your consumer is. And Experian is really there to help you understand who your customer is and get to know them better. Today, most of the insights which I'm going to be showing you come from a product within Experian called Hitwise. And essentially what Hitwise does is it shows you what people are doing online. We have the largest sample in the world. We monitor the internet behavior of 25 million internet users worldwide, and within the UK we monitor about a quarter of the online population. We see visits to over 1 million websites every single day and about 50 million search terms every single week. That gives us some pretty interesting insight. And so what a lot of people often say, what's the benefit of this data? We can get a lot of this from Google Analytics. Google is a phenomenal product, and is obviously you can get a lot of this insight for free. But Google can only really tell you what's going on from your sort of internal view, your core website, what's going on, the interactions going on with your website. What Hitwise allows you to do is shows you that external view. So what is, imagine having Google Analytics, but for your all of your competitors as well. So you can see where are the opportunities, where are the threats, who can I work with, who are the potential affiliates. And search is a massive part of how your own business is going to sort of react online, but also how your competitors react online. So if we think about search, I mean, it's becoming increasingly is the way that we get hold of information. Historically, if you wanted to find out something, you'd go to your local guru or your local person who was the sort of the man in the know. Hence why I picked the asterisk example. You would go to someone who was a trusted authority and a trusted source of knowledge. Nowadays, the trusted authority is Google. Search is a massively growing area online, and about 90% of all searches in the UK are conducted on Google, and it's the way which people find information these days. And so it's often a good idea when we are having these webinars is to try and sort of challenge people's perceptions and ask them, just how big they think search is. So we go and when we're doing roadshows, when we presented this at Internet World recently, we're asking people how many visits to search engines are there every month in the UK. And it's always interesting to see the sort of the range of responses. We've heard everything from about 5 million searches a month to 1 trillion searches a month, which is clearly quite a lot. But the actual answer is 2.2 billion. And when you think about trying to contextualize that number, 2.2 billion really is a lot. That's a huge number. And so to try and sort of put that into context, if you had a paper chain of 2.2 billion paper clips, as I've got there, you'd have a chain which essentially could wrap around the world twice. So 2.2 billion is massive. And so with this many visits going to search engines, there's a lot of opportunity to be derived from what people are searching for online. And particularly within the retail space, this is something which I just wanted to highlight. Search is the sort of the #1 source of traffic online, and as a traffic provider to retail websites in particular, search is growing. So you can see that this time last year, 38.8% of all visits coming to retailers were coming from search engines. This year, that's gone up to 42%. So search is becoming more prominent as a driver of traffic online as search grows, and on average, we're seeing a sort of about an 8% growth in overall searches year on year. As search grows, it's becoming more prominent as well in the amount of traffic which is driving as a proportion of total traffic going to retail websites. So how can you get the most out of search? I wanted to draw your attention to a quote from Matt Cutts, who's one of the top people at Google. And one of his things is to say you have to think about what a user is going to type. And actually, that's a great way to sort of think about it, because you have to be able to align your product with what people are actually searching for. The great thing about Hitwise, of course, you don't really have to think. We can take the thinking out of the equation, and we can tell you exactly what people are searching for. But search is all about relevance. So it's pointless you broadcasting what you want to say if people aren't interested. And in particular, if you're looking to talk about how people search for products, you need to be able to align what your products say about you in the searches with what people are actually searching for. And I've got a couple of sort of examples of how that works in reality. So what I've done here is have a look at the way that people search. This is a sort of a normal Google search for luxury jewellery. And you can see at the bottom of the page here that David Marshall London is gone to quite a length to make sure that their website is optimized for the term luxury jewellery. In fact, it's the UK Luxury Jewellery of the Year. And when you click through to that website, you can see that it's got a nice picture, it's well optimized, and again, they're really pushing the luxury jewellery function within this website. However, when you look at the sort of the broader context of how people are searching online, you have to ask the question, why would you want to rank well for such a low volume search term? So what this graph is showing here is in the blue line, which is very sort of minimal traffic and then sort of very sporadic spikes. That's the way that the UK population searches for the term luxury jewellery. And if you compare that to the red line, which is much more prominent and has much higher spikes and is much more consistent, that's the way that people are searching for designer jewellery. Now, one of the other sort of benefits of what Hitwise can do is it can show you not just sort of single terms, but it can give you all of the different unique variations that people are searching for luxury jewellery. So it might be luxury jewellery in London, or luxury jewellery in my area, or luxury jewellery pieces. Now, the interesting thing here is that when we did this analysis, there are only 33 unique variations of the term luxury jewellery being searched for over sort of a 12-week period in April, compared to 383 unique variations of the term designer jewellery. And this really gives us a sort of very strong indication that actually people don't associate the word luxury with the term jewellery. They're much more likely to associate the term jewellery with designer, or indeed with bespoke. So if you're in the jewellery business, there's actually very little point optimizing your website for luxury jewellery. You want to associate yourselves with the way that people are actually searching for your products, in which case you want to optimize your website for designer jewelry. I quite like this as another example because it's a little bit more unusual, a little bit more quirky. So much better if we were taking from a sort of a standing start. If you wanted to understand the way that people search for contact lenses online, you can start using some of the words which keep repeating in the way that they're searching and build those into your online website optimization. So on the right-hand side here, I've got a word cloud of the top search terms that people search for, which are the recurring terms which people search for around contact lenses. So you can see that some of them are sort of value-based terms, so people are looking for cheap contact lenses, where to buy contact lenses, and also value contact lenses. Some of them are around the different types of contact lenses, so either coloured or daily contact lenses, and then some of the other things I think are actual sort of places or brands where they can buy contact lenses, so the likes of Asda, Specsavers and Boots. On the left-hand side, I've put a list of the top contact lens search terms, and you can see that a sort of a massive amount of those are in the sort of the generic phrases. And in total, for the sort of just for the week ending the 14th of April, there are actually 303 different unique variations of the way that people are searching for contact lenses. So there's a lot of different terms in order to be able to sort of to optimize around. And again, we ask questions. We like to be able to challenge people's perceptions. When we ask people what month do people search for contact lenses the most, this is really about understanding search seasonality. So a lot of people say perhaps in January, when it's the beginning of a new year, they want to buy up a lot of their contact lenses, or in June, July, when they want to getting into the summer season, perhaps because of hay fever, they have to adapt the kind of contact lenses that they're searching for. But the interesting sort of winner is October, and so that's perhaps a little bit counterintuitive, and you might sort of question, all right, what is it about October that is making people search for contact lenses so much? And what's really bizarre is when you start looking at the seasonality of the search, people are not just searching a little bit more for contact lenses in October, they're searching massively more for contact lenses in October. So over the last 3 years, you can see those 3 big spikes highlighted in blue. That's when people are searching for contact lenses, and in some cases, this is sort of 5 to 7 times more than any other time of the year. So what is it that's driving searches for contact lenses in October? And the answer is Halloween. There's a huge amount of searches and a huge number of variations of searches which diversify the contact lens industry in October, when people are searching for things like zombie contact lenses, vampire contact lenses, scary contact lenses, and Halloween contact lenses. And a lot of this has also been driven by things like the Twilight films and The Walking Dead. So there's a lot of pop culture references there. But what's really important about this is you might say, okay, well, what's the relevance of this? The websites which people visit in order to go to buy these sort of slightly more unusual contact lenses are the same websites typically where they go to buy their one-day AccuViews or their varifocals. So there's an opportunity in the market definitely for the fancy dress type websites to jump on this trend if they haven't already. But actually for major sort of contact lens providers, so the likes of Specsavers or Vision Direct or Boots, if they're not providing these additional services, i.e. the likes of the vampire contact lenses at this time, then they're missing a huge trick. And of course, getting people to buy for those seasonal ones, getting them in as a customer is much more likely then to capture them and for them to come back when they want to buy their normal contact lenses. So I've illustrated a little bit about how we can use search to understand the market, understanding what's going on with sort of seasonality of search, and how it's crucial with using search that you make it relevant to what people are searching, aligning your product with the way that people are actually searching. And I wanted to talk to you about sort of the wider Experian context. Experian is all about getting to know, get, and keep your customers. And if we break that down a little more, there are a number of different things that Experian can help you with in terms of understanding whether you want to know your customers. We can identify market opportunity or prospect discovery. We can do some customer analysis. If you want to get hold of your customers, so once you know them, how do you go about getting them and acquiring those customers? We can help you with your online advertising, with your search marketing, and in email with subscriber conversion. And finally, once you've got those customers, how do you hold on to them and how do you keep them coming back to your website? That's the final part of the sort of the puzzle. So doing life cycle communications, keeping customer engagement and customer advocacy. Now I realize that a lot of these are just sort of buzzwords, but what I wanted to do really is highlight how search can be used at 3 of these stages, so one example throughout each of the know, get, keep cycle, and hopefully that'll bring some of this to life a little bit. So firstly I wanted to sort of highlight the know. How do you know your customers? And one of the nice ways that you can use search is to understand what's the market opportunity. So this is a bit of work that we did for a pharmaceutical company, understanding the size of market within weight loss. And what we did was we had a look at all of the searches that people were conducting around health and medical industry, and then we could say of all of those searches, what percentage of those were surrounded weight loss. This company was also interested in the very sort of specific searches around airborne allergies. So once we've highlighted and understood what percentage of the sort of the total market that weight loss and airborne allergy is, we can tell them roughly how many searches there are on a year. So there's over 90 million searches on average in the UK for weight loss searches, and over 5 million searches for airborne allergies. So that gives them a nice idea of the sort of what's the total market opportunity for them to go and capture, and then they can start planning their strategy around, all right, of those 90 million, how many do we want to be making sure that we're getting coming to our website? The next part of the cycle is get. So if you want to get your customers, how do you get people to come to your website? And that's all around search marketing. And so in this example, I've taken something which is quite topical around the Olympics, and in particular what I've looked at here is the way that people search for Olympic property rentals. And this is an example really of how you can take a fast-moving search trend and jump on the bandwagon to get a lot of customers very, very quickly. So what happened was at the turn of the year, at the beginning of 2012, in January, we started to see a huge increase in people searching for Olympic property rentals. In fact, there's a 300% increase in people searching to rent rooms or to rent flats or rent houses, understanding that perhaps in the run-up to the games, a lot of the hotels would already be booked out, so they wouldn't necessarily have the time to, or indeed the money to be able to book a hotel. They had to look for alternatives for where they were going to stay if they wanted to come to the game. So we started to see people searching a lot more for Olympic property rentals. And what I've done here on the left-hand side is sort of drill down into those searches. What do those searches look like? So this first sort of box on the left-hand side shows you the different search terms that people were searching for in the month of January. So you can see that they're searching for rent a room for the Olympics, rent a house for the Olympics, but there's also people who are on the other side is like, how do I rent my house for the Olympics? Now the sort of strange thing about this is that because it was an emerging trend which perhaps people weren't necessarily predicting or weren't necessarily thinking about, a lot of the major property providers in the market didn't really anticipate this and therefore weren't picking up a lot of the traffic. So the likes of Rightmove, Foxtons and even Gumtree, people that you would expect to be all over this, were not getting very much traffic. However, look at all of the different URLs in there which have clearly been set up purely around this emerging trend. So, for example, rentduringthegames.com is never going to be a URL which is going to be useful after the Olympics, or indeed it's not going to be that useful outside of this particular subject matter. However, by sort of cleverly setting up this this website and making it relevant for when people were searching for this thing, 35% of all searches around Olympic property rentals were going to rentduringthegames.com. So it was a very quick win and a very sort of profitable thing to do. Now, this is perhaps not a long-term strategy and not something which you could continue doing, but it really highlights how by jumping on these very fast-moving trends and actually staying ahead of what's going on and monitoring what's going on online, you can really start to see some of the benefits very, very quickly and even move against competitors who are much bigger, much more established, and have much bigger sort of marketing budgets. The final piece that I wanted to talk to you about is keep. How do you keep your customers? So once you know that you've got your customers, how can you keep them coming back to your website and keep them returning as a sort of a customer who's going to keep buying from you? And so search can really help you here in terms of customer engagement. Now there's two different ways that I want to highlight that you can do that. There's sort of the really interesting approach, which we'll come on to in a second. This is what I've dubbed the dull but useful approach. And so I've taken a sort of subject matter which is perhaps a little bit dry, isn't the most fantastically interesting of subjects, but it's nevertheless something which is very important and is something which people search for a lot. Particularly in the run-up to the end of the financial year, so March, end of March, April time. So people searching for ISAs. What's interesting about ISAs is that 43% of search terms around ISAs come from paid clicks, and this is much bigger sort of proportion of the overall pie than we would expect for most financial segments. So usually anything between sort of 15 to 20% would be a sort of an average for the amount of paid traffic when we're looking at searches for, say, mortgages. But for ISAs, it's much bigger. And so it's even more important in this case to understand what are the wholly organic clicks and the search terms which are currently not attracting the paid clicks. Where are the opportunities there, where you can start getting, by using some on-site optimization to get sort of free traffic, as it were. You don't have to invest paid budget in order to get this traffic, and also where is the sort of the benefit in terms of consumer engagement, keeping the customer coming back. So on the right-hand side, what I've done is have a look at those search terms which are still popular in terms of overall volume, but receive no paid clicks at all. And the thing which really sort of comes to light here, first off, is that the most popular term is ISA calculators. And so this is a sort of immediate content point. If you're in the finance industry, if you sell ISAs, but if you don't have an ISA calculator on your website, then you absolutely should get one, because this is something which people are searching for, and being able to use your website as a way to calculate what they can do in terms of their ISA limits is extremely useful. So building content to keep your customers engaged around ISA calculators in this example would be a very easy thing to do to keep people coming back. The next thing to understand is that people ask a lot of questions. So particularly around the sort of finance industry, a lot of people are asking questions of how many ISAs can you have, how do ISAs work, and what does ISA stand for. And so again, it's not a particularly innovative approach. It's not particularly fascinating, but creating good FAQ pages is a really smart way to actually get people to come and to keep customers engaged and coming to your website. And it's amazing how many companies, even though it is a very simple thing to do, how many companies don't do that. And so really it's a simple thing, but done well can have huge sort of dividends. And finally, this is not really part of the dull approach, but it's worth sort of saying as a sort of add-on. If you happen to create a brand, as Halifax did, around the Vanilla Ice song Ice Ice Baby, and then they turned it in one of their advertising campaigns into Isa Isa Baby, for goodness sake, make sure that you link up your online and your offline campaigns. So one of the sort of the slightly shocking things was that even though Halifax put a lot of effort into creating this brand and creating the offline campaign, they weren't actually receiving any of the traffic online when people were typing Isa Isa Baby into Google. So a lot of searches were going to YouTube and to other video sites, but none of that traffic was actually going and clicking through to Halifax. So the second way that you can use in terms of in terms of customer engagement is to go for that really sort of interesting and engaging approach. And I wanted to sort of use an example of Christmas recipes to do that. So let's say, for example, that you're working in the grocery industry, perhaps you're a big online supermarket. It's very tempting, especially in the build-up to Christmas, to keep hammering your customers with offers or promotions or things where you can just trying to push the product. But the reality is that customers don't always want that, and actually there's definitely something to be said for the sort of the softer approach, where you're giving them content which is going to keep them engaged, and then they're much more likely to sort of come back to your website and then buy off you. And so search here is a great way to understand what's the kind of content that we can send, maybe as an email campaign in a newsletter, or maybe as something which we put on our website to encourage people to search and come through. So in this example, what I've done is have a look at the variations in the way that people search for different Christmas recipes. And it's really interesting, again, just harking back to seasonality, to see how the various recipes change over time. So much earlier in the Christmas season, in fact, going back as early as late September, people are starting to search for Christmas cake recipes. And the reason for that is because any of the cooks amongst you will know that you need to start making your Christmas cake well in advance of Christmas and keep feeding it with alcohol to get the best sort of results. So people start searching for Christmas cakes way, way before the rest of the Christmas period. Much later on in the period, we start seeing searches for mince pies and for Christmas starters. And then it's really quite late on in the period when people are searching for how to do Christmas dinner, and then more specifically things like red cabbage recipes. So by building content which is engaging, which is relevant, which is actually nothing specifically to do with your product, but is something which is going to be interesting, which your customers are going to really latch onto, can be hugely, hugely useful. And what I've done here is have a look at, of all of the searches online for Christmas recipes, who are the big recipients of traffic. And I think the really interesting thing here is it's not just the big players that you would naturally expect to get traffic. So the likes of BBC Food and Dealia Online, but it's other industries as well. So Mums Who Think, for example, an online social network built around looking after young mums. This is a great website, a great example of someone who thought a little bit outside the box, creating something which was relevant, but started to receive a huge amount of traffic coming through to their website. And in fact, they were the 10th biggest recipient overall for all Christmas recipe searches. And a final final on customer engagement, we've seen definitely in the last 2 years or so a huge influx in the number of people who are go nuts for infographics. They're very sexy, they're very cool, they're a great way to display data in a very visual way. And this is something that the BBC created using some of our data. They took all of the ways that people search for different foods and then put them into little segments depending on what were the most popular foods seasonally throughout the year. And so I've highlighted in particular here April, rhubarb crumble was the thing which was most searched for in April. So that's it really for this webinar. Some of the key takeaways from what we've talked about today. Firstly, search is the biggest source of traffic online. It's absolutely massive. So 2.2 billion visits made to search engines in the UK alone every month, of which 90% are coming from Google. But importantly, search is becoming more dominant within the multi-channel marketing, and especially within retail. Search has to be relevant, so there's no point if you don't know what your client is actually, or your customer is searching for, there's no point guessing and trying to just hope that you'll attract traffic because of something that you think for what your brand is. So that goes back to the jewellery example that I said. People aren't associating jewellery with the word luxury, they associate it with the term designer. So you need to align yourself to designer jewellery rather than luxury jewellery. And adapting your campaigns to seasonal trends, as we saw with the Olympic rentals example, is a really great way to capture traffic at the right times. Experian, as I said, is all about know, get, keep. Understanding who your customers are, how to get hold of them, and then once you've got hold of them, how to retain them as your customers. And search, as we've seen in the last 3 examples, can help you at every stage of that know, get, keep cycle. The great thing, obviously, is that you can then start to integrate those into the other bits of your digital marketing, so whether that's as part of your social campaign or part of your email campaign. And in fact, we have the ability to help you to take all of those things and start putting them together into a much more complete multi-channel strategy. A final plug I wanted to highlight, there's lots of great resources that we have on the Hitwise website. You can follow us on Twitter at @Hitwise_UK, and you can download a lot of the free things which we have online, like our online video report, for example. And that's all available from the website. And a final reminder again, this is just one of 3 webinars that we're running this month. Next week's one is going to be focusing on email, and specifically some of the best practices around email to help drive your ROI, with some really great tangible examples of how you can do that. And the one in 2 weeks' time on the 23rd of May is going to be looking at social. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you found it useful, and please do keep coming back, and if you have any questions, please send them to Hitwise, and we will be sending out the slides to all attendees. So if you need a copy of the slides, don't worry, those will be with you in about a week's time. Thank you very much for your time, and enjoy your afternoon.